This is where the big boys play, huh? We ain't here to play. At the total combined weight. At the total combined weight of 589 pounds.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, at well over 500 pounds, this is where the big boys play.
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. This is At a Combined Weight. I'm your host, Charlie Dudley, joined, as always, by Sriracha Hot Chili Sauce, Robert McElroy.
He's referencing my T-shirt. It's my favorite shirt. It's Sriracha.
Today we're going to look at the September 16th, 1996 episode of Monday Nitro live from Asheville, North Carolina. But first, we're going to talk about how last week we went over to Atlanta. For the last couple of years, I have attended, actually let me rewind, since I think 2001, there's been a progressive metal, progressive power metal festival, and it is held at Center Stage in Atlanta. And the first time I ever went was in 2012. It was headlined by Redemption and Symphony X on Friday and Saturday night. Now, earlier in the inception of the festival, the main two nights are Friday night and Saturday night. And they would have some, lesser-known bands play on Wednesday and Thursday. But then in more recent years, they've had some bigger bands play on Wednesday and Thursday. Well, in 2015, one of my favorite bands was the headliner for the Thursday night show, and it was Evergrey. And we've talked about them on the show and pushed their new album, The Storm Within, as it just came out last Friday. Well, this year they weren't performing, but they were having an album release party at Vinyl, which is part of Center Stage. And Robert, living in Atlanta, was able to meet me over there, and we were able to listen to the new album, The Storm Within, and get to hang out and chill with Evergrey, and we've never actually met them before, just kind of contacted them back and forth on social media and plugged their first single, Distance, off of The Storm Within, and we also plugged The Paradox of the Flame, which was their second single, and they've since released Passing Through, which is their third, but and we're going to be playing some of their stuff for the next couple weeks. But this is your first experience at Prog Power, and I wanted to kind of get your kind of look at Prog Power from you didn't attend the rest of the night's shows, but you were able to kind of get a glimpse into, I guess, the type of people that were there, the type of access that you get, and just kind of the atmosphere. So what did you think about everything?
I thought it was a lot of fun. I think it's cool to be able to have that kind of access to a band that's over as big as they are in Sweden, as you and your dad have talked about. Really neat event. Of course, since I was there, I was not going to leave without a T-shirt. Bought me a T-shirt. I really dig their music. I'm not, very well, I'm not really into really heavy rock and roll, but by God, when something's good, I don't care what the genre is. And I think they're a really cool band. It was a great time. I love people watching at events of that nature. It was a really interesting, really cool crowd, really down-to-earth people. Someone spotted me in my Four Horsemen T-shirt, so we got to talking about wrestling.
Yeah, so you're able to bring it back to wrestling sometimes with this crowd.
Absolutely. This absolutely struck me as a wrestling crowd. In fact, if I was just riding around Midtown, passed by Center Stage, and saw the crowd of people, I would assume it was either a rock and roll, some kind of event, or wrestling. And I would be pissed because I'd be like, if it's wrestling, why don't I know about it?
Right.
So.
And to give a little background on the venue, Center Stage, if you follow us on Twitter, you know this already. Center Stage is the home of WCW Saturday Night. That's where they filmed WCW Saturday Night, 6:05 Eastern Time, only on TBS, the mothership, as Dusty Rhodes called it. And we were there and got to hang out with Evergrey and, drink a couple beers and shoot the shit and hang out a little bit and have some libations, as it were, and listen to the brand new album. And it was limited to the first 250 people. We were in the first 10, 15 people that were there, and stayed pretty much the whole time. And it's a really, really cool event. And if you haven't listened to Evergrey, I guarantee you, especially off their last two albums, you will find something, if you like rock at all, that you will find something on those two albums that you will dig. And the more that you listen to, a lot of their older stuff is a little harder and it's a little darker. And a lot of the thematic elements they get into are a little darker. But it's good, riffy, hard rock. If you like guitar riffs, I mean, they have a ton of good ones.
I mean, if this bluegrass fan sitting here across from you can get into it, I mean,
yeah, I was
guarantee
shocked
you.
that a guy that I went to college with that really loves bands like Mumford & Sons and
Avett Brothers.
Yeah, Avett Brothers. You talked about Cross Canadian Ragweed before. There's another band that you really dug in college. I don't know if you I can't remember the damn names of them, though.
I mean, I can reel off to you more names. Ricky Skaggs and Kentucky Thunder. Anything from the olden days. Any like old school bluegrass or some of the new bluegrass type music that kind of has a hippie type following. Yeah, so it was really surprising to Charles that I could jump on the Evergrey bandwagon in any capacity. I mean, they're just good. That's like I said. It doesn't matter the genre. I don't give a shit. If it's good,
they're good. Yeah, they're good. It'd be interesting to see if you listen to the show and you listen to some of their stuff, if you like some of their stuff. And if you don't, then I can't help you find good stuff. You're probably just, I don't know. I don't want to really insult you that badly, but
yeah, Jesus Christ, Charles. I want people to continue to listen. We have a whole show to do after this.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a really cool experience, really fun to meet those guys. You know, like I said, they're not local; they're from Sweden, and they're huge over there, and they're pretty big in the power metal circles, prog metal circles. Hoping, next year's roster was announced on last Friday, and it's a really great roster. I'll definitely be there for Friday and Saturday. I'm hoping that Evergrey's going to be there on Wednesday or Thursday so that I can see them live, because they're going to be touring for the Storm Within coming up. So hopefully they'll be in Atlanta around then, or maybe they'll come to the Masquerade and we'll be able to go see them then. But if you have any other questions about Prog Power or anything like that, shoot us an email, shoot us a follow, social media, at a combined weight, email us at a combined weight at gmail.com. But without further ado, live from Asheville, North Carolina, September 16th, 1996, 20 years ago, we get to see the fallout from Fall Brawl. What did you think about the start of the show here?
It was very apologetic, the theme was, from Tony Schiavone, talking about how, had we only trusted Sting. It was a lot of coulda, shoulda, woulda from him especially. Had we only trusted Sting, we might have won War Games.
Right.
And of course, they pushed on War Games how tonight could be it. We could win this war. If we win War Games tonight, NWO could be finished. So it was apologetic, and Tony was really sorry, and he apologized on behalf of the entire WCW more throughout the telecast.
I thought it was funny that Zbyszko was like, I didn't say anything. I'm not apologizing at all. I told y'all not to be paranoid.
He kept at one point he's like talking about either Sting or somebody, like, don't be sensitive, don't be
talking about Sting. Yeah,
he's
a manly man. He makes sure that you know it every broadcast.
I'm becoming less and less of a fan of his commentary, dude.
I never was a huge fan of him. I guess I paid more attention to commentary than you did growing up, which is weird because you're such a audio-visual nerd.
I am. I've always had a preoccupation with play-by-play guys that I thought were great, with broadcasters that I thought were great, and I paid attention to it as a kid. I never noticed it was shitty. I never noticed bad commentary as a kid.
Right.
But no,
I thought the start of this made them look shitty. To pile on to your shitty wordplay there. Them talking about the bogus Sting. And Shivani says, Sting was in Japan. We should have known that. And I just find that to be so... It makes WCW seem so stupid because who was on the call when Sting turned to the NWO?
Wasn't it Bischoff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does he not talk about how he is the booker, essentially, to where he has to guarantee the NWO certain things to get them over, to get them to compete at Fall Brawl? And he says, I'm not going to be able to make the trip to Japan, but, we booked these guys over there, so it's well known that he's the guy at this point. But he doesn't know that Sting's not in Japan. I guess it kind of plays into Bischoff joining them down the line, I guess you could say.
Sure. I hope that gets explained very well. I hope that, it'd be kind of cool if... Well, no, I'll be sure not to. Also, during the beginning of the segment, we get more Chi-Fi pledges with their NWO t-shirts handing out flyers. We get that shit again.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten all about the Chi-Fi pledges when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I remember people walking around with the shirts and that kind of deal, but I never realized there were that many or that they were that young. They looked like teenagers or early college.
They look so young, and
that'll play into something that you're going to bring up later in the show, I think, huh?
It sure will. Until then, we can get into the first match if you'd like to, Charles.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll kick it to you. You can get into our Lucha-rific opener.
Oh, sure. It's Juventud Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio Jr. for the Cruiserweight title. I have a problem with Juventud Guerrero coming off a loss to Conan. And it's our Cruiserweight title match of the night. It just further perpetuates their throwaway title matches that you and I both are a bit disappointed with.
Now, let me play devil's advocate here for just a second. Now, you know that I hate the random Cruiserweight title matches. The random title matches for no fucking reason. I hate them. But for Juventud to be discounted for his loss against Conan, in fact, that was for the Mexican heavyweight title, so it's kind of Juventud was outside of his weight class and division. And what I would equate it to in my mind is LSU starting to play conference play, or Auburn starts conference play this weekend against Texas A&M, and they've already lost to Clemson, but they're undefeated in the SEC.
See, I like what I hear right now from you, because That's kind of mental gymnastic-y, like I was talking about Elizabeth. I like this from you. Like, it makes sense to me now.
No, I don't like it. Don't get me wrong. I fucking hate the random title matches for no reason. Like,
Right.
you just get one just because we want to have a title match. But in theory, you could say, you know, Juventud lost to a guy that isn't in the Cruiserweight division. So it's fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
But it's still shitty that he gets a title match after he loses and for no reason. But what'd you think of the match?
Match was what you would expect from Juventud and Rey Mysterio Jr. Fantastic. Loved the Frankensteiner that went into a powerbomb. That was so hot. I mean, toward the beginning of this, though, and throughout, typical WCW, Tony Schiavone's continuing to apologize on behalf of WCW. He talks about the NWO's demands, which at this point include having an entire program. They cut away from, you know, what could very well be the best match of the night to see a celebration out front by the NWO with their red solo cups.
Yeah, I love the red solo cups, by the way. I guess Sean Waltman had been partaking in those solo cups prior to his appearance on the evening. But I thought, I couldn't agree with you more. I thought it was a really, really fun and energetic match. I thought these guys, they work really well together. They have a ton of history together elsewhere. As I said in our Fall Brawl show, Ray, during this time period, is such an innovator of offense. You know, he shows the American audience, in large part, in the mainstream American audience, if you will, offensive maneuvers they've never seen before. And especially as a 12-year-old kid back in 1996, I mean, holy shit. His offensive maneuvers couldn't have been any better. You know, I mean, turning a powerbomb off the top ropes into a Hurricane Rana it's something you've never seen before if you're watching WWF or WCW.
And so few in the wrestling business can attempt this and pull it off. Most
Right.
would hurt themselves, even if they're Merle Haggards like Rey Mysterio. Like, you can't, he's the kind of talent, you can't just say, oh, well, he's small and he's agile, he can do that. No, he's talented. Just like
Yeah.
you couldn't say about Shaquille O'Neal during his, prime years in the NBA, oh, he's good because he's big. No, he's fucking talented.
Yeah, he's talented as shit. He just happens to be fucking huge.
Right. He's talented. Rey Mysterio, he happens to be Merle Haggard.
Right, exactly. Up next, we had Tenay backstage with Benoit and Mongo. Of course, Mike Tenay's still doing interviews because Mean Gene is no longer with the company but would return. Mongo and Benoit, the whole candor of this interview was them blaming Luger and Sting for WCW's loss, and they feel like they're going to avenge it tonight, and they told them that there'd be hell to pay if there was some shenanigans went down, and they're going to make sure that there is hell to pay.
Consistent booking here because they've been butthurt for weeks about War Games. And,
oh, yeah.
And they're kind of, especially Mongo, they're second banana to Arn and Flair's Horseman status.
Yeah, and I went on a rant on our Fall Brawl show is how they should have, if you're talking about logic, Flair and Arn should have been like, okay, fuck Sting, put Mongo in there. It probably wouldn't have been better. You could have still had the NWO go over. I think it probably would have done, you could have done the same exact thing that you did with Sting, but you could have had Mongo in the match.
Sure.
You have the fake Sting come out, and you never reveal Sting or have him come out at the end to kind of help and say, or come to the ramp and be like, aren't y'all going to play my music? I'm in the match. I mean, what the hell? Y'all just kicked me off the team, and nobody ever thought to talk to me about it. I think that would have played into more of what they were trying to go for, but hey, I didn't book it. I was 12. Video package for Glacier. And Glacier talks about his origin story with his sensei in Japan, explaining the symbols on his armor and his body and face, how they represent the universe, ice, and the evil behind him. What was your thoughts on the video package for Glacier?
It's good to get some explanation about somebody's regalia, which you rarely, if ever, get. I mean, these lucha guys come out with some elaborate-looking gear, in some case kind of shitty-looking gear. But I would like to know, perhaps, why certain guys wear what they wear. I mean, Rey Mysterio, for example, his mask, at this point, I think it's rather iconic. You see it. It was in those guys' office on Workaholics. I mean, you see it places, but I don't know the origins of it. Here we get explanations about everything, he wears.
Yeah, Tenay does a decent job of trying to explain some of the lucha stuff, but you're right, they don't explain the back, like, this is why they do this. And they did that some in WWE with Mysterio, and he was wearing this the superhero gimmicks for a while on pay-per-views.
Yeah, they do a good job explaining why Conan wears what he wears. The East Los Angeles.
Yeah, very specific. They're giving like an address of the neighborhood. The 1800 block of East Los Angeles, and this particular neighborhood.
He just mapped it out for us. What'd you think?
And they explained the Super Calo, what he wore a little bit.
Did.
I liked it okay. I thought it would have been better to have somebody else explain it in like a voiceover rather than have him explain it.
I agree. You could have easily have, dubbed in someone else to
fucking Mean Gene or somebody, just have like a cool voiceover, talking about him instead of having him do it. I think it would have added to like the mystery of him, because I never really heard him cut a lot of promos.
I don't know that he ever cut one.
But I think it would have added to like the allure and the aura of the character, very mysterious and, just kind of, and not even Mean Gene, just somebody different, like one of the TNT, TBS voiceover guys. Just have him read it.
Sure.
Read what Glacier actually said.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was good for what it was. That's all they could have done differently. Showing different things to say, like, hey, here's my belt. This is what it has on it. This big-looking moon on my ass. Just talking about the evil behind me. And I thought it was very cool to kind of explain that kind of stuff to us. And we'll talk a little bit more about Glacier when we get to that portion of the show. Up next, DDP versus Ice Train. This was an okay match, but I'd like to shit on something that they did during the match. They even showed the fucking finish live, because they cut to the merchandise stand when, as you call them, the Chi-Fi pledges. It looks like the damn Little Rascals 13-year-old to 15 to 16-year-old guys standing around a merch table and caution tape and signs that says, "Don't buy this crap," or whatever.
However am I supposed to believe that these little shitheads could take over a merchandise booth, put up their little caution tape to wrap it around one another? They don't, it's just so, it's not believable at all. I think, I don't know how they did it. I'm sure there was like a casting call of sorts that went out, or however they did these sort of things back then. They could have got some like bigger dudes, like only submit to this project if you're, 5'11", 180 or something.
No, they probably just went to the damn local high school and said, give us about 15 motherfuckers and let them come, and we'll give them a free shirt and they can watch some wrestling.
And they'll be on TV.
There you go. I mean, none of those kids look like they could cause any trouble.
No.
And like you said, and I like the fact that you're not doing any mental gymnastics here. So we're kind of reversing the roles in this show. I'm explaining away Juventude's deal, and you're trying to rage against the illogical machine that we're just going to have a bunch of fucking teenagers show up and wrap caution tape around a merch table.
You know, and those kids, hey, at this point, they're not that much older than us. They can tell their buddies, the ones that are into wrestling, like, yeah, you know, I was on Nitro one night. Let's pull up a YouTube clip.
Or they could get on the WWE Network and watch it.
Yeah, so all that's...
Say, hey. But the match ends in a very illogical fashion as well. DDP's in a submission hold, and there's a towel around Teddy Long, which Teddy Long's the only manager in WCW that brings a towel to the ring, first of all. Second, he's one of the only managers ever to throw in the towel on a situation by one of his charges, if you will. And Nick Patrick almost gets hit with the towel as DDP throws it into the ring. And Nick Patrick stops the match because the towel's been thrown in. And he awards the match to DDP because the towel's been thrown in, despite the fact that Ice Train had him in a submission hold. So it doesn't really make any sense. No way can you make sense of this. Could you try to make sense of it?
Do you think they're just trying to perpetuate Nick Patrick's ref heeldom, if you will? You think?
Sure, but I mean, why would he help DDP? Because DDP's a heel.
That's all I got. That's all I got. Okay, really, why take away from the finish of why cut away to show Shelby County High School's lucky kids on? I did not even plug in my own high school.
Yeah, I
know. The high school of a bunch of relatives of mine, including my brothers, but not mine. Why would I do that? Anyway, that's my biggest issue is we don't get to see what goes down. I guess that's.
Yeah, and we have to watch it in a replay.
Yes, but the whole thing. I mean, I'm with you. It's shit. It's terrible.
I was fine with DDP getting the win because I don't really like Ice Train. I don't like the Ice Train character. I don't like the whole Ice Train gimmick. I think it's stupid. I don't think he sells anything. So I don't like any wrestler that doesn't sell. So, up next, speaking of wrestlers that do not sell, Konnan, Super Callow. Before the match, though, we see Sean Waltman in the crowd, and Shivani explains that he's formerly known as a 1-2-3 Kid in WWF. And so the predictions and speculation is abound throughout this match. Super Callow made the match better than it was. He had a suicide dive with a senton that was nuts.
Oh, God, it was beautiful.
Konnan gets a win with the, what they call the power drop, but it was the Razor's Edge. Best part of the match, besides the suicide dive.
They called it, I forget what they did call it, but yeah, essentially it was a Razor's Edge into a power bomb.
Well, yeah, they called it a power drop is what they called it.
Power drop. I see.
Yeah. Best part of the match, besides the suicide dive senton, was at the end of the match, after Konnan wins, Jimmy Hart yelling "Viva la Raza!"
Oh, dude!
In his high pitched voice, he's like "Viva la Raza!"
That is funny stuff.
So, what did you think of the match?
Oh, I enjoyed the match. I love all the spots from Super Callow. Konnan is so physical. Konnan is just such a physical performer, and I can't really tell if it's stiff or if he's just good at making it look like it hurts. I don't know, but enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Up next, you get Mike Tenay getting comments from Sean Waltman, and Waltman says he's been wrestling in Japan. He didn't see the finish of the War Games match. He doesn't know what's been going on. But it doesn't surprise me that he doesn't know what's going on because he's fucked up as a pile of coat hangers. It seems like.
You and I talked before the show. You asked me, you're like, do you think he seemed a little fucked up? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. He does seem that way here.
Yeah, I don't think he seemed to. He seemed like he was on something, and like it was said earlier in the show, they're all standing out there with solo cups. I would not put it past them, knowing that they're not going to perform, that why not just fucking drink?
It would be very easy to get away with, and it's not like...
very, very wrestling, you know?
Oh, very, and it's not like Sean Waltman being in whatever state of mind he was in ruined the segment. Not at all.
I mean, it just kind of probably added to it, if you will.
Yeah, sure. Who won War Games? And pissed Tenay off.
Yeah. Yeah.
They wasn't happy about it. You know good and damn well who won the match. Oh, darn it. NWO won. Well.
Right.
You know, I don't know. Do you think they could have introduced the 1, 2, 3 Kid here a little in a different fashion? When I was a kid, man, I loved seeing new guys show up, and I knew who they were. They would just show up from WWF. It really got my blood flowing.
I don't know where else you could have had him show up in the show. I think it probably would have been cool to have him show up at Fall Brawl. Maybe, I don't know. I don't want to get into fantasy booking, but they could, yeah. He just kind of slid in there and just showed up, and it was okay. I mean, DiBiase did the same thing.
Yeah. For that reason, I'm wondering if maybe it's a little too predictable. A guy from WWF sitting on the front row. Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much figured that he was with them.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of. There wasn't a lot of speculation. Like
they didn't try to explain. Right, with DiBiase.
Yeah, with DiBiase, could he be the fifth horseman? You had that going on with it. So.
Yeah. Up next, you had a very, very short match with Hugh Morris and Brad Armstrong. Best thing about this match was Armstrong's entrance music and his mullet.
I didn't recall how agile Hugh Morris was. They pushed that in the match.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he has a pretty sweet moonsault.
Oh, yeah. God, that thing was pretty.
Yeah, and the Armstrong rolls him up out of it. Very, very short match, but not bad. I mean, Brad Armstrong's a good hand. Hugh Morris, just kind of a mid-card guy, so just kind of a placeholder, nothing match, really. Then we got Tenay with the Macho Man, and Tenay pulls out one of your favorite gimmicks ever, the still pictures from the pay-per-view.
Oh, just riveting.
And he even calls them still pictures. He's like, we've got some still pictures from the pay-per-view. And you're like, motherfucker.
Yeah, and he doesn't do a very good job with telling the story along with the stills. He just tells you what's on the still.
Right. He's like, this one, it's like he's doing a slideshow back in like 1985. This one is where we're at a family picnic.
You know, and I'm wondering if since they didn't have a Titantron, that he just kind of had to memorize what each picture was and talk about it. And if maybe that...
Which would have sucked even more. I mean, what they were looking at or whatever, that would have been terrible.
So, yeah. I mean, it's not like he had the stills in front of him. Okay, I'm going to flip this one over and talk about the Polaroids I got from the CVS down the road.
Well, you don't know. Maybe they were looking at something.
I'm just trying to think of
Maybe they're looking at a monitor or something.
Maybe. I mean, they have a camera guy right there, so.
Right. Savage promos on Hogan, throws out a lot of sayings and cliches, and then Macho does some battle with Scott Norton. And they cut to them NWO in the parking lot, drinking out of solo cups, wearing NWO shirts. So now they've got full branding and like everybody's in an NWO shirt now, instead of just like normal clothes. Everybody's wearing an NWO shirt. NWO merchandise is full on, ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
I thought the match, the Macho Man with Scott Norton match, I thought it started pretty good. Started out pretty hot with them brawling outside, but then it just kind of went down. Once Norton took control, it was kind of rest hold, power spot, and then Macho goes nuts.
I mean, Macho had just talked about how he's got one marble left. So he's hanging desperately to that marble, so he's not making good decisions at this point, so he doesn't give a shit about the finish of a match, as evidenced by Fall Brawl alone. Or, So here he just, 3 headshots from a chair.
Oh, stiff ones too.
Very stiff. There's no, you can stick your hand up there, but that's going to look terrible. No, he just took them.
I think you still have to put your hands up. Fuck if it looks terrible.
No, I agree.
It looks fine.
Take care of yourself.
Put your hands right here. Put your hands right there and act like it hits you. But take the brunt of it right here.
Right.
You know? Good grief.
I've seen more of those throughout this era, us, putting the show under a microscope than any time.
Oh yeah.
Just blatant.
It's nuts.
Blatant chair shots to the head.
Up next, the in-ring debut of Glacier. Glacier versus Big Bubba. We've got the light show and the snow falling. There's a lot of talk about how expensive Glacier's entrance was. But what did they spend money on?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, too.
Maybe we'll ask him when we have him on the show.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Sin Cara. How they kept...
Very, very reminiscent of Sin Cara.
Very reminiscent.
But at the time, obviously, Sin Cara wasn't around. But
right.
You're talking about with the whole, lighting gimmick, too?
With the lighting gimmick,
like how
yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm speaking of.
I didn't like that.
I think you leave the lights as is. I think they'll eventually pull the plug on that.
Yeah.
But...
Because you can't have if you push them to the moon, you can't have a championship match where the ring's blue. I guess you could, but it'd be weird.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the match?
The match was just, it is what it is. Big Bubba didn't really get a whole lot of offense in. We see a lot of what we're going to be seeing from Glacier from here forward. It's a lot of martial arts, mixed in with some traditional wrestling moves, but very few of them. It's a lot of kicks and what have you. And it just basically squash, dude.
It was very, very martial arts heavy. I thought that Bischoff did a good job of calling and explaining the martial arts moves and talking about how it's very difficult for a person to hit this said combo. A foot in the back kick or whatever the fuck he was saying. But, Bischoff's a martial arts fanatic, big martial arts guy. So he put over I thought he did a good job of putting over the talent that Glacier had from a martial arts perspective.
We get a little bit of background on him as well, talking about his late father and his brother were both in law enforcement, but that he had kind of a choice. He could go into law enforcement or go into martial arts. I would have liked more explanation as to why he chose the martial arts route.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting that they kind of left that out, but maybe they'll get to it in the next couple of weeks.
Sure.
Up next, Sting comes out, has a little in-ring promo segment where he has his back to the hard camera and talks about his friends, and WCW turns their backs on him, and all the fans that stayed with him and believed that he was not NWO, they can, if they believe that he was not NWO, that they could still root him on, but if they believe that he turned NWO, that they can stick it. So he told you at 10 to stick it, Robert.
Well, hey, I think I was one of these fans who, once I realized they were fake Sting,
back supporting him.
I myself never turned on Sting. It's so interesting that you have some boos from the crowd and some cheers, if I'm Bischoff and I'm the powers that be at WCW, I'm so happy that some folks are buying that he really could have double crossed, that there really is a question of Sting's loyalty. I think that's great if you're them. You had a mixed reaction. It was like Roman Reigns' ass was out there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, he says he's a free agent, and then Bischoff and Heenan kind of take that and run with it. Like, what does it mean? Does a free agent mean that that he could join the NWO, that they could buy the rights to him, or he could go to another company, or will he be in the match later with Luger? A lot of questions coming out of the promo for Sting. Interesting to see what they do going forward, and if they kind of bring him up while he's gone when he becomes the Crow. And how soon does he become the Crow? I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but knowing what his mind...
We're about to find out.
Yeah, knowing what his mindset is right now, I'm hoping it's kind of quick. Because I can't...
Well, I know that he doesn't get in the ring until, 97 or 98, right?
Oh, they tease it forever, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he never wrestles. I think he might go... I'm trying to think of what year I dressed up as Sting for Halloween.
Dude, I did the same damn thing. You were Crow Sting for Halloween?
I was Crow Sting for Halloween. And then
man.
I went around the neighborhood one time, and I came home, and I still had some black face paint, and I turned my face paint into Gene Simmons.
Huh. Nice.
So that I could go back around.
And get more... Halloween tyrant.
By God.
Trick-or-treat tyrant, as it were.
Up next, a tag match, Chris Jericho and Marcus Bagwell against Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. Liz won't go to ringside with the Horsemen, and we see Sean Waltman stand up and flips a switch, and papers start falling from the ceiling. A little bit delayed. He flips the switch and holds his hands up and nothing happens. I think that it was supposed to have flipped a little sooner, maybe. Because you don't see them start falling as soon as, his hands go up. But then, a fucking, truckload of paper falls everywhere.
So much.
Just tons.
So much. And you know that this being a WCW crowd, it's just going to get used for debris for them to throw in the ring.
Well, they did throw it in the ring.
Constantly. Even Deborah McMichael got pelted a few times. I felt bad for her. She's all trying to be dainty and cute.
Yeah.
And she's getting pelted with wadded up paper. No, you fucks have any manners.
Yeah, Bischoff points out that Waltman's the sixth member. He said, well, I guess he's the sixth one. Solid match. I love how Flair freaks out in the middle of the match and just starts going and grabbing paper and crumbling it and throwing it down by the ramp. It made no fucking sense, but Ric Flair, so I'll allow it.
Oh God, I love everything he does pretty much. Did you see how that they pushed NFC head coach or whatever that NFL show, NFL head coach. Did you ever watch that show?
Yeah, it was some kind of...
I never saw it.
I don't even know if, it obviously came on if they're pushing it, but, I don't even know the premise of it. And I don't ever remember seeing it
I think it's just a bunch of behind-the-scenes looks / interviews with all the current head coaches.
Right.
Didn't know if maybe... He talks about it, didn't know if maybe you'd seen it.
No, I hadn't seen it. I did not see it. I did not like the fact... We talked about this earlier, how they cut away from the match. And it shows fake Sting and Sean Waltman hanging out with the rest of the NWO. And Giant plays a boombox with the Sting voiceover that everybody fell for. And he's so fucking awkward. Nobody... He says something. It takes him forever to press play, first of all.
Oh, I know.
It's like a monkey fucking a football back there. Him what button is it? And then he comments, he says something only the NWO or some like random catchphrase that they've never ever said, and nobody says anything.
Yeah.
They all just kind of look at him like his comment was a fart in church. They were just like, "The fuck are you talking about, dude?"
It was so awkward, and I felt bad for him.
He's not like they try to be, and that's one thing that I mentioned when the NWO first started. It's like their coolness factor was at a pinnacle when it was just Hall and Nash, and then it dips a little bit with Hogan, but they were still cool because Hall and Nash still did cool shit, and DiBiase's cool. Like, he was never, like, not cool.
Oh.
And when Giant wasn't talking, he was cool, like, when they're just destroying shit. But when Giant starts talking, and then the fake Sting is talking stuff, and then Sean Waltman is starting to talk shit, and then you get all these other guys that'll try to throw in there talking stuff, it's like, this is I'm kind of over it.
I don't like a lot of people trying to have the same personality, even in a heel faction. I mean, in Dungeon of Doom, you don't have a bunch of guys trying to be the same thing.
No,
they have a variety of fucking weirdos.
Yeah, you got Ming being Ming, and fucking Barbarian being that, and Kevin Sullivan being like the little devil man that's like 5'8" and can't beat up a grocery cart. He's a badass. Allegedly.
You got Hugh Morris, who laughs at shit.
And he's weird as shit and can do a moonsault, and he's like 300 pounds.
Yeah.
And then you had Kamala at some point, and then you had John Tenta as a shark. I mean, it's all like just weird motherfuckers.
Yeah, send us your weirdos. We want them.
Yeah, it's good that it's kind of a diverse group. And I agree with you. Like, in the Horsemen, you had that one underlying theme, like they all like nice shit, like nice cars, they love money, but you know, Tully Blanchard and Arn never talked about being jet flying, wheeling and dealing type stuff. They wanted to fight and fucking beat you up and shit.
And it wouldn't have gone over had they tried to be the jet flying, wheeling, dealing, etc.
Right.
It wouldn't have gone over.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So, Woman rakes the eyes of Bagwell, and then Arn DDTs him. Flair gets the win with the figure 4 on Bagwell. So, the NWO's rubbing WCW's nose in the fact that they tricked them with a boombox that the Giant struggled to find the play button on. Main event of the evening, Mongo and Benoit against Sting and Luger. As Sting said earlier in the show, he's a free agent. Sting doesn't show up, so it's a handicap match. And then during this match, they spent a lot of time talking about how Bischoff's saying that a lot of these WCW guys are going to Japan next week, so they won't be there for Nitro. He pushes that Macho's the only man, basically. And Heenan's like, why are you telling them this? Be quiet. Quit saying that.
That was so funny.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job of being like, you know, taking the logical perspective, like, why are you telling them this? And Bischoff's like, they'll know. And Heenan's like, well, you don't have to tell them. Make them find out themselves. Heenan's just so good in his role.
So wonderful. I was texting you last night. I watched SummerSlam 92, parts of it. And
Great
it was
stuff.
Heenan and McMahon on commentary. Just
what a maneuver.
So wonderful. so great. Both of them. McMahon was such a great commentator. And then you get Heenan's shenanigans to juxtapose it, and it was just fucking golden. I love McMahon. His commentary was fucking great.
1, 2, and no. Okay.
Up and over. Like whenever someone's in the air, he feels like he has to sing them. He's just sing to them. Like during this era, it would just been had he been like calling Mysterio matches during this time, he'd have just been singing all the time.
Yeah, just Aria and the shit out of stuff.
That's fun.
Luger has Benoit on the torture rack, brings out the rest of the Horsemen. Luger gets the shit kicked out of him. So Bischoff says that Waltman will be called Six now. Apparently he has a press release from the NWO saying that, hey, we want our guy to be called this. And I mean, I understand them trying to give him a name and whatnot, but I mean, they could have just said, they could have done that differently. When they show, like when they cut outside, Hogan could have been like, "Hey, Six,"
Yeah,
and then and then him walk over, and then you kind of deduce the fact that his name is Six.
that's yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, they could have solved it very easily.
Rather than Bischoff being like, "Oh, my sources tell me," it's like, how the fuck did you know that Hogan sent somebody, "Hey, his name is Six," so that Bischoff can say it on the air? It just kind of, or maybe they're planting seeds that Bischoff's part of them or something. I don't know.
See, thank you for going back to the gymnastics mat and somersaulting and doing whatever else they do.
Maybe I'm giving them a little more credit than they deserve there, but they cut outside toward the end of the show. NWO shown watching Nitro in a limo. They talk about Macho being alone next week and planning to take over Nitro. And I wish I would have watched like this portion of Nitro so that I would have known that WCW was going to be like overtaken by the NWO, because I went to the next Nitro, which is in Birmingham.
See, okay. Something rung a bell with me during this show. I've been slow to kind of just come out of this with you because I wanted to make sure I was correct here. But I do recall the angle of everybody being in Japan. I, in fact, too, was at this Nitro in Birmingham coming up.
Oh, were you?
Yes, I was. Because, see,
wow.
Yes, I remember it vividly. Me and my friend at the time were both very angry that...
Well, see, we don't need to talk about it. We need to save it for the show.
I agree. But see, I'll save every bit of this discussion for the show because it's a discussion, honestly, I can't wait to have.
Yeah.
So you and I were in the building at the same time.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. We'll talk about it after we get off the air, or kind of, I guess, preview that, whatever.
Sure.
But you got any more thoughts on this week's Nitro?
I don't. You didn't shit on the show as much, but I mean, what did you think about it overall? Because I don't even know really.
I thought it was okay from an in-ring standpoint. You got your cruiserweight match of the night, and I liked the tag matches toward the end of the show. The handicap match was okay. I thought Jericho and Bagwell did a good job. But, for the most part, I mean, this was just all about an angle. This was all about just forwarding the angle, forwarding the Sting angle, forwarding the NWO, and the WCW formula at this point. We're going to have some good wrestling underneath, and we're going to give you some angles at the top that you can follow along.
Yeah.
Pushing Halloween Havoc. Hogan and Macho.
That's it.
So, that's going to do it for us. You've been listening to At a Combined Weight. We talked about the September 16th, 1996, 20 years ago today, live from Asheville, North Carolina. Anything else before we get out of here?
I just thought it was an okay show. I thought it was all right. No huge complaints. It was all right.
Social media.
Being_large. That's Instagram and Twitter. Twitter's where we do most of our stuff, so mainly there. Facebook, you can shoot me a follow at at Robert McElroy Actor. That's my only handle. That's not being_large.
You can follow the show on Twitter. It's At a Combined Weight. Sometimes we'll retweet some stuff, make comments. Shoot us an email, atacombinedweight@gmail.com. As we talked about at the top of the show, check out Evergrade's new album, The Storm Within. It went on sale and released on Friday. We're going to play a song off of that album. This is Astray off of The Storm Within. Check it out. Check out their past stuff. If you like this song, you'll love other songs on this album, and you'll love songs on their previous album. Give them a listen. Here's Evergrey with Astray.